Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of the ESPN broadcast. I'm your host, Danny Proby.
And I'm Ari Nittickman. Very proud that we actually undid the ESPN acquirement deal. So we are back. Normal ESPN, Elevate Sports, Frisbee with a P network. Glad to bring all the action to you today.
So happy. Ari, do you have any personal updates that you can enlighten us with?
Personal updates. Well, I had a really good tennis match today.
Love to hear it.
Had my first Fierce George practice back, so really fun to get back out on the field. How about you?
Yeah, I've been coaching a lot and playing with my dog. It's been great. So, now that we've gotten that little preamble out of the way, let's get into it.
Let's do it. All right, we had a regular season game starting us off. Danny, what were the big headlines? What were the big surprises?
Well, it's hard to say that anything is really a surprise when you don't know that much about any of these teams, but the biggest surprise might have been Hamburg continuing their bagel streak. Like, they're definitely a half a dozen bagels by now, so they're definitely carb overloading right now for the regular season. So they heard our call on the last video and they said, not so fast, Ari and Danny. We are actually going to bagel Point Grey. Now, we did hear some intel from Point Grey that they only had a couple practices, so I would expect that if this matchup were to happen later in the season, we would see a very different score. What do you think?
Yeah, well, we got some insider information. Some key players like Genel and Ing weren't playing. Some of the players that we used to coach, Mac and I think Bryn was out too, maybe. Either way, missing some of the studs, so I'm excited to see that matchup later in the season.
Same. Now, in other surprising news, Stratford Hall and Burnaby North had a friendly match, and I kind of expected the score would be a little bit closer given the fact that Burnaby North didn't finish in the top 4 at that first tournament, and Stratford Hall was in the finals. But we found out the score was 9-1 Burnaby North over Stratford Hall. Now, that's your alma mater. Your alma mater. That's your old school.
Indeed, it is my alma mater. So, it is a replay of the provincial finals, I believe in 2019, where Stratford won their first provincial championship ever. That's got to feel good for Burnaby North. I know some of the coaches, J Pod, the God, he was on that team that came second that year, so it's got to feel good for him to get that W.
Absolutely. So that's quite a convincing win. It just helps us with our connectivity when we're doing our power rankings to see schools from different districts play against each other. So these tournaments and all these friendly matches, we do collect data from it, and it does help. So love it that you're reporting these scores. It makes it really, really helpful. So speaking of upcoming games, we have now finally gotten all of the intel about when the independent games are. So this upcoming week, we have some independent games happening. Ari, which ones are you excited for?
Yeah, we're really looking at this game between Tite, which is York House, and St. George's against St. John's. Now, St. John's, the last couple of years, they've been really pushing themselves hard. They were starting to have good games with Stratford Hall even. Back in the day, Stratford Hall would just crush St. John's. And, Tite's always been a perennial powerhouse. They've always got good talent, both from York House and St. So I think that's going to be a really close game. A tight game, you could say.
You could say that.
You could.
And you did say that, in fact. Moving on to the South Fraser District. Right now, Queensland Park and QE have both won their games, so they're both 2-0 at this point. So we'll get a little bit more information this week when we get some scores in on Friday about kind of where they sit, but for right now, they seem like the teams to beat in that district. Surrey Christian and Semiahmoo split with 1 win and 1 loss so far. If we don't know your scores, it's because we're not seeing it on the Instagram. If we don't see it there or you're not in our Discord, we don't have any information about you. We can't talk about you.
What are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
We want to hype you up. Anyways, my key matchup this week is actually the same as yours.
Yeah. Well, tell us about it.
Oh, I was going to get you to tell us about it.
All right. Well, we're looking at Surrey Christian and Guildford Park. Again, Surrey Christian, 1 dub, 1 L. Guildford Park, I believe they're 2-0. So I'm curious to see, it's a tight matchup. Again, we've coached lots of Guildford Park players in the past, went on to play Vortex and stuff, so maybe some of that magic Vortex stuff is going to help Guildford Park win, or Surrey Christian might come ahead. We'll see.
Yeah, for Guildford Park, we don't actually have your scores. We do know that you won both your games, but we don't really know by how much. So if you're listening to this or watching this and you're from Guildford Park, slip into the DMs, give us some score updates, because we know that you're also a team to beat and we want to shout you out. They got some good Valkyrie players on the team this year, that's for sure.
All right, on to the Fraser North. Danny, you coach in this district, I coach in this district. What was happening in the Fraser North?
Well, Burnaby Central had a convincing lead over New West.
Yeah,
how does it feel to hear that?
Rough for New West. I wonder who's coaching them.
What was the key to success for Burnaby Central against your team?
Well, they had this one crazy play, so take notes everyone, where they'd pick up the pull and then huck it to 4 people and they would just try and randomly catch it. Worked like 50% of the time, but it worked enough to win. So there you go, Brandon Sun just chucking it. And I guess that's one way to get the dub.
It is a way. Maybe you could use that same strategy.
Maybe.
Okay. So, North and STMC made quick work of Mosscrop, unfortunately. We were actually keeping track of how many turnovers were in the games for both teams. So, it was 67 in one game and 70-something turnovers in the other game, and the games are only 70 minutes long. So, this is just a testament to the defense of Mosscrop. And the games were lopsided. It was like 9-4 and then like 10-1 or something like that. So, oof for sure. We played the top 2 teams. I caught Coach Mosscrop, just in case that wasn't clear. We were playing against the 2 top teams, and there was like 7, 8, 9, 10 turnover points. So North was really excited every time they scored. They were rushing the field. There was lots of energy, and I think that we're going to surprise them next time we see them, because we were holding back some of our secret weapons.
Maybe they'll score 2 points this time.
That's the goal. Double every time. Double every time.
Well, the next big story out of the Fraser North is Heritage Woods. You know,
coming out of the woods.
They showed some real strength against Mountain, who came 4th in the tournament, and you know, Heritage A and B had really close games with Mountain. So, you know, Mosscrop and New West are playing them this Friday, and we're really curious to see, you know, who's on their teams, you know, where's the talent coming out of Port Moody, and you know, I'm curious to see what's happening in that school.
Same, and we'll report back really quickly. So another game that I'm super curious about in this district is going to be the Burnaby Central, Burnaby South matchup. So look out for those games. I think they're going to be close matchups.
All right, over to Richmond. Lots of teams playing, lots of talent, the best social media coming out of Richmond. Danny, tell us about what the games were like this week.
So Richmond has already played 3 matches, and we have scores for all of their games. So it is definitely a lot easier for us to get a bigger picture of what's going on in that district. So today we had today being Wednesday when we filmed this. On Wednesday, we had some really key matchups that we were really curious about, specifically Palmer versus Burnett. And the score was not as close as we would have thought it would have been. So Palmer overtook Burnett by a score of, I believe, 10-3, which is convincing. So we did some early season power rankings for that district, and this convincing win over a good team is what launched Palmer to the top. So they are currently sitting at 3-0. The other 3-0 team is Richmond High. They ended up besting Steveston London to 11-8, which is a good score because Steveston London is not a scrub team. They're a great team. They're right up there in the power rankings. Then we have McNeil, who beat McRoberts 13-1. They've had good scores the entire time, so they're 2-1 so far in this season. Steveston London, we already mentioned them. They're coming up at 4th. They've had a couple close games, a Universe Point win and a Universe Point loss, so expect them to move up or down in the rankings. I would expect that they're going to move up. They seem like a really strong contender. Now McMath, Hugh Boyd, and McRoberts finish off 6th, 7th, and 8th respectively. So Hugh Boyd, I have them at 7th just because I think they are putting up a few more points than McRoberts, and I think that does go to say something because clearly they can make passes into the end zone. So McMath, they've had decent games, but we don't quite have enough information on this team to move them up in the rankings just yet. So there you have it. That's our first regional rankings. Thank you to all the Richmond teams who are updating us constantly with the scores. If you're in a different district and you want us to do proper rankings, please let us know the scores, please. Ari, any surprises there for you?
No, I mean, Palmer, led by Zoe Young. She's young, but she's leading warm-up. She's leading spirit, and I just think she's the key to their success. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Well, we don't really know much about their team other than Zoe, so we just
don't.
really like Zoe. She's great. Moving on to the North Shore District, we have had some scores coming in. We had Argyle beating Windsor. We had Sutherland overtaking Handsworth, but not by as much as I thought. I thought that game was going to be a bigger blowout than 13-8, but anyways. Then Sentinel beat West Van 13-3. And anything about those scores surprise you? I know we have very little information about these teams, but...
Definitely low information, but again, yeah, that 13-8 is a pretty tight score with Handsworth. You know, I'm not sure who they have apart from Danae. Sutherland, we know quite a few players, so yeah, would have loved to see that game. But yeah, I'm curious to see the upcoming game of Handsworth versus Argyle. Again, Handsworth had a tight game with Sutherland, and Argyle had a tight game with Windsor, so I think that's going to be our marquee matchup for the North Shore.
This is also the debut of Rockridge, so we'll finally get to see kind of how they take the field this Friday.
Rock fight.
Now, Ari, this is the season of random tournaments. Not that this tournament specifically is random, but there's more like little tournaments happening than ever before. Can you tell us what's happening this weekend?
Yeah, I love it. There's just this one-day tournament on Saturday at Empire Field in Vancouver. If you happen to not be playing on it, maybe go by and check it out and go to the P&E and watch some Frisbee. But we got some interesting teams in it. We got Templeton Junior. They're pretty interesting. We heard a rumor, we don't know if it's true, that they beat their senior team? ? We know they have some good players. They got Tessa and Daphne Bell, the twins. We've been coaching them since they were like grade 2. Their dad was on Furious George, and he's probably taken a professional ultimate photo of you. And we also have Sam Alonzo and a guy named Callahan. How do you not win with a guy named Callahan? So they seem like a pretty cool team to watch this weekend.
I'm also curious about the Sutherland team. So we know that they have really strong seniors, but the only juniors we really know of thus far are Devin O'Reilly. So I'm excited to go watch to put some faces to some names and kind of get to know the players a little bit more. Now tell me about this Hamburg A team, because there are quite a few familiar faces for us.
Definitely quite a few. Lauren Fung, Caitlin Chan, Avedon Kwok. We got Sophia Kang, Maya McPhee, Kwan. We got a ton of names that we know. You know, Hamburg seniors, clearly bagling team, so I'm curious, you know, how this Hamburg junior team does, if they're going to drink the Kool-Aid and eat the bagels like the senior team, or if they've got a bit of work to do.
Now, it's interesting that Hamburg actually has 3 different teams in this tournament. So they have Junior A, Junior B, and a Grade 8 team. It's such a prestigious program. It's such a deep program. No wonder the pipeline is just producing top talent at the senior level. So curious to see how all 3 of those teams do this weekend. Now, do you know anything about Britannia, KP, or this RE Mountain team?
No, RE Mountain sounds amazing, though.
It sounds all right.
RE Mountain.
Sounds all right. If we were to break down the schedule, especially on the senior side, because our ESPN focuses mostly on the senior. So Pool A, we have STM A, Quantland Park, and Templeton B. So obviously the STM KP game will be the most intriguing, I think, in that pool. In Pool B, we have Templeton A versus Semiahmoo and STM B. Who do you think's the top game?
Probably Templeton versus Semiahmoo. I'm just impressed that Templeton has 2 teams, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
Now we got Pool C. We have Sutherland, Eric Hamber, Britannia. I was making a comment. I'm not sure who made these pools. You know, no offense. I'm sure you're a great person. Those 3 teams sound like a powerhouse team, and I'm not sure. You know, Britannia's got some great players. Andrew Tuong, I believe, you know, and some of the other guys there are really good with Eric Hamber and Sutherland. So that's like a bloodbath pool to me.
It's a pool of death. There's always a pool of death, and that's it.
I guess. And then Pool D, we got Vantech, Delta, and Fraser Academy. Again, sounds like a slightly weaker pool. Who knows? But, you know, they should be even games, which is always exciting.
So, as I already said, you should go check out that tournament if you're not playing in it. If you're listening to this and your team doesn't currently share their stuff with us, get them to do so. The Discord's going to be bumping this Friday, okay?
Ooh.
We've got some games happening, so after you're done your Frisbee games, head over to the Discord. We're going to be lively, bumping. There's going to be some things to do, so we hopefully will see you this weekend. And if not, we hope that your high school games this week are elevated.